My name is Scott Elphinstone. I'm on the board of Progress Texas. This organization just does fantastic work. It's a voice that needs to be heard, and the people on this team do just magical work with an incredible commitment, and they squeeze a nickel pretty hard to make everything happen.
Thank you, Scott. It's Friday, January 23rd, 2026, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch Rapid Response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Latest on the incoming inclement weather as of this Friday morning. Amarillo and Lubbock are on their way below the freezing mark, and there they will stay until at least midday on Tuesday. Likelihood of a combination of snow and freezing rain through the roof starting tonight and continuing through Sunday morning. Dallas-Fort Worth, rain and snow chances are high through a similar time frame with freezing conditions starting around midnight tonight. That's Friday night into Saturday morning and staying below freezing also until Tuesday. Austin looking to stay above freezing until late Saturday afternoon. Overnight Saturday in the Austin area will see rain and maybe snow while below freezing. That's the risk time now for dangerous icing in the capital. Houston's going to get a lot colder than they're used to for sure, but it looks like the rain will end before the freeze hits. El Paso and San Antonio also cold and wet, but looking likely to be spared any major icing problems. Here's hoping everybody has enough toilet paper to make it through Tuesday. I thought I was bad with my beans and my soup and stuff. Some of you people are totally ridiculous. Another safety note to check out in the show notes. Of course, here in Texas, many of us are rightly concerned about the power and thus the heat going out and might resort to risky indoor heating methods. Nina Hernandez at Patch has a rundown of the signs of carbon monoxide poisoning to watch for over the weekend and steps to take to prevent it. That was a leading cause of death among the hundreds we lost during Winter Storm Uri in 2021. There is no need to become a statistic. See the show notes. Shifting to that other kind of ice, and the one we appear to be stuck with for a lot longer, that is if two South Texas Democratic congressmen have anything to do with it. Both Henry Cuellar and Vicente Gonzalez, both with primary challengers in just a few weeks in the March primary, were two of the 7 Democrats in the U.S. House who voted in favor of an additional $10 billion in funding for ICE yesterday. As Michelle Davis at Lone Star Left puts it, these two have, quote, betrayed us again. There was a line, they crossed it, unquote. This vote comes as ICE has continued to ramp up aggressive street tactics, not only in Minnesota, but in Maine, another generally blue state with a vanishingly small presence of undocumented people, unless maybe they're Canadians. And Texas takes a direct role in a particularly shameful ICE story this week. The Houston Chronicle's editorial board is blasting our involvement and the ongoing and depraved assault on American decency embodied by ICE, in particular a striking photograph of 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos being gripped by his Spider-Man backpack by a federal ICE agent in Minnesota. This photo has become a chilling symbol of the growing Trump ICE intimidation campaign. This little boy was allegedly used as bait to lure his family out of hiding before he and his dad were sent here to Texas. They're reportedly being held at the South Texas Family Residential Center in Dilley. Despite having an active asylum case and no deportation order, this camp at Dilley is one of several Texas detention facilities where people are being held in contemptibly inhumane conditions, and the deaths of those in custody are beginning to pile up. Dear listener, you and I are both complicit in all of this as citizens of Texas. Our state has become a primary operational hub for the national ICE campaign, and we all share in this shame. The Houston Chronicle board writes, quote, as we decry the abuses up north, we must continue to demand respect for basic rights here. We know better than most that maintaining order at the border matters, but nothing in that statement requires the depravity we are seeing and is being kept hidden from public scrutiny, unquote. Much as the rest of the world will have a hard time forgiving Americans for electing Trump a second time, the rest of these United States may have trouble forgiving Texas for being the foundation of this particularly ugly moment of cruelty. Of course, here in Texas, there's apparently enough cruelty to go around. Stephen Simpson at the Texas Tribune is writing on the 988 Lifeline, ironically established during the first Trump term, which provides 24/7 mental health support through local crisis centers. 988 originally included a specialized subnetwork for LGBTQ plus youth, but the hotline's administrators have recently removed this dedicated Press 3 option, citing high costs and a shift towards what they call unified services for all callers. This change leaves only veterans and Spanish speakers with tailored menu options, and comes as the 988 hotline in Texas faces both a $7 million funding deficit and rising call volumes, which jumped from roughly 15,000 in late 2023 to over 25,000 by this last December. Mental health experts are worried about our LGBTQ plus kids. They're 4 times more likely to attempt suicide and often have only the support and lived experience of specialized counselors to keep themselves in a good headspace. For a great many of them, that lifeline just disappeared. Speaking of Texas shame, it's hard to imagine our most meat-headed elements more effectively boiled down into a single human being than Congressman Troy Nehls, who got some himself yesterday, as PBS reports, as he placed blame on U.S. Capitol leadership and police officers and not President Donald Trump for the events of the January 6th insurrection, blaming to their faces a group of Capitol Police and other law enforcement members in attendance at yesterday's congressional hearing on former special counsel Jack Smith's investigations into Trump's mishandling of classified documents and the president's role in the January 6th attack, one of whom was former Washington, D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, who in the guise of a cough channeled the sentiments of a great many of Congressman Nehls' unwilling constituents, saying, quote, "Go fuck yourself." Michael Fanone suffered a heart attack and a traumatic brain injury after being pummeled and shocked with a taser by January 6 rioters, and has since become an outspoken critic of Donald Trump. Looking pretty badass in that Dropkick Murphys shirt, too. Gotta say, I'm a new fan. As of now, the scheduled debate between Democratic Senate hopefuls Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico is still on for Saturday afternoon tomorrow. By the current outlook, rain shouldn't combine with freezing temperatures in Georgetown until later in the day. Lucio Vasquez at KERA in Dallas says the debate is happening amidst the Texas AFL-CIO COPE convention and can be seen on a bunch of Nexstar TV stations across the state, including CW33 in Dallas, CW39 in Houston, and KXAN TV in Austin. Progress Texas will be on hand in Georgetown, and we plan to bring that full debate to this podcast feed over this upcoming weekend. Something solid to listen to while we're hunkering down. By the way, and speaking of debates, we hope you caught last night's talk with Texas Attorney General candidates and Democrats Joe Jaworski and Senator Nathan Johnson. That debate will also hit this podcast feed over this upcoming weekend. And back to the Senate race, the New York Times is particularly fascinated of late by what we've come to know as the Jazzarico situation here in Texas. J. David Goodman at the Times sees the Crockett-Tallarico matchup as a test of the future of Democratic politics, highlighting the contrast between Tallarico, a progressive Christian seminarian emphasizing political decency and broad appeal to independents and disillusioned Republicans, and Crockett, a bold partisan fighter focused on mobilizing the Democratic base, specifically addressing the majority-minority population to end minority rule in Texas. Goodman writes that the race has exposed internal coalition tensions, polling showing Tallarico leading among white and Hispanic voters, while Crockett maintains an overwhelming advantage with black voters. This contest is vital for national Democrats who view flipping Texas as essential to reclaiming the Senate. Regardless of style, Tallarico's moderation or Crockett's fire, both candidates hold similar progressive stances on abortion, immigration, and many other issues, and both have built formidable small donor networks, with Tallarico raising over $13 million in recent weeks. Perhaps a bit surprising, another New York Times piece defends those podcasters who came under intense fire last week for suggesting that Congresswoman Crockett has no chance to win in November. Opinion columnist Michelle Goldberg goes to the math, arguing that the Congresswoman's strategy focused on mobilizing non-voters rather than flipping Republican-leaning moderates is going to prove difficult in Texas, while Tallarico's own campaign history informs his current strategy to win over GOP-leaning voters by appealing to political decency and progressive Christianity. Neither will be easy in Texas, of course, and the stakes are sky high. The Senate is likely to remain in Republican hands without a flip of at least one of Texas's seats. Meanwhile, progressives in Texas are increasingly divided on this forced choice between Jasmine Crockett's base motivation theory and James Tallarico's crossover appeal strategy. This debate on Saturday should prove interesting indeed, and again, we plan to bring it to you here over the weekend. Early voting is underway in both Tarrant County's State Senate District 9 and Houston's Congressional District 18 through Tuesday, January 27th. In Tarrant County, veteran union leader and Democrat Taylor Ramett faces MAGA darling and Patriot Mobile technocrat Lee Wamsgans to fill a vacant Senate seat held for decades by Republicans, a major flip opportunity. And in Houston CD18, which has gone without representation in the U.S. House since the death of Congressman Sylvester Turner in March of 2025, Voters face a choice between Democrats Amanda Edwards and Christian Menifee. Election day for both of these runoffs is Saturday, January 31st, and a special election runoff in a midterm year in the middle of the threat of bad weather is very likely to see low turnout, which means your vote counts huge. Get out there before the weather hits. In some cases, that means right now. Go get it done. For the rest of us, the March primary looms as well, and now's the time to confirm your registration for that election. Deadline on that is Monday, February 3rd. And early voting in the primary starts on February 17th. See the show notes for a Texas 2026 March primary ballot form from the Texas Tribune that you can use right now with your home address to see who will be on the ballot in the primary in which you choose to vote. Everything you need to know about voting is at govotexas.org. And by the way, if you're planning on voting by mail, note that new guidance from the U.S. Postal Service is saying they may not postmark a piece of mail on the same day that it's dropped off to them. So the later you wait to send in your ballot, the more likely it is to be rejected. If you're voting by mail, do that ASAP. Our mission at Progress Texas is to improve and save Texans' lives by acting on our shared bold progressive values, and that starts with countering the billionaire and corporate-funded disinformation machine. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now like Marlon May, Kimberly Staffieri, and Teresa Boisseau all have. We appreciate all of you very much. Join them and the team at ProgressTexas.org. Our web store is up too at the website, ready for you to grab some newly released Humans Against Abbott, Y'all Means All, and Rovolution shirts, stickers, and buttons. Hit the web store at ProgressTexas.org this weekend to support your favorite podcast network. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Friday, January 23rd, 2026. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is an independent, nonprofit, rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media in action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and stay warm this weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday.